Uh,
I would I would love to
uh,
hear about your your martial artism.
Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playable Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, playable.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on playable. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked.
My martial autism. Dude, I'm telling you, there is a Venn diagram of like autistic hobbies, and like they're just two, it just looks like a circle of Web3 and jujitsu. The only
how long you
difference
been
is
training for?
since 2019.
Awesome. So I started Muay Thai in 2017, but I'm almost 50 now, so I'm probably not going to fight anymore. So I started jiu-jitsu about 6 months ago.
Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome. And Ben's father-in-law, big Muay Thai guy.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's
actually,
still my passion, but yeah.
I've become Nick's hype man, self-appointed, and so I'm just here to declare that he is the leader of judo in at the very least in crypto. So when it comes time for the Dragon Ball Z gal- galaxy-wide tournament, my vote is to have Sir Nicholas represent us because he is the Omega fighter.
And I knew this was gonna happen. And one of my professors from the gym had just asked for like a link to the podcast. So I'm like, no, Tab, I know I am a mediocre blue belt at best and a mediocre white belt at judo. So it's not going to my head, I promise. Ben
He's
Ben
just
likes
being
to fill in.
humble.
Ben likes to fill in for my mom and gas me up. I swear, I come. That's why I do this pod directly before jujitsu, so that any sort of like ego appreciation just gets smashed
Smash.
at the bottom of side control. Mother's milk. I get tapped
Yeah.
by a large 12-year-old.
I'm a little different. I do all my training at 6 a.m. I like to wake up and go to war for a couple hours, and then that just like mellows me out for the rest of the day.
Dude, good on you. The morning crew is not an easy path. I've done that a couple times and it's tough.
It's not, but it's so worth, dude. It sets the tone for my day. I live in LA, and so like like I don't have road rage driving home from the gym. You can cut me off all day long. I'll just be like, it's fine. Go ahead. I don't care. You know, it's I like it sets the tone for the day. And I'm telling you, the days I don't go in the morning, you notice the difference because you're so used to feeling so good by the time it's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And when I don't go, it's like, you know, don't
I
have those
definitely know
five
that
star
feeling.
days when I don't go to the gym. But yeah.
Yeah, they're super
Agree.
important, especially in crypto. I always like to remind myself on some of those days where Bitcoin's crashing to 70K or whatever it was and everything was doom and gloom. I'm like, I'm just at the bottom of side control. Just need to
Yeah,
stay
exactly.
calm.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just start from rear naked choke today. I'm having a day.
Yeah. I haven't had a panic attack in a while.
Yeah.
I
It's a
actually
great
think
distraction.
I actually think there's something to say about like having a good cathartic outlet when we're in crypto because and maybe even as an investor as a whole because it is such a freaking volatile market that will destroy your mental if you're not protecting it. Like you guys are obviously way cooler than I am with your martial artistry and I mean I left something like pickleball to just just run around and just smack the shit out of a wiffle ball or whatever the type of ball is, and just like get it out of your system. Like I find that actually really helps a lot.
Pickleball is great. So I love pickleball as well. My dad became obsessed with it. Now my brother and dad have gone down to play in like the Naples Open. We got involved with like the National Pickleball League. So my family is also mainlining pickleball.
So who's gonna come
I'd
to a
love to get the
Spartan with
411.
me?
A
What is
Spartan
that?
race?
Yeah. You got 2 months to train. I'm doing the short one because the other one was sold out in June. Come on, man. It's a 10K. It's like 6 miles. You can do that in your sleep.
I'll stick with the nipples open pickleball situation. I'm out I'm out on the Spartan race. Sorry, bro.
Yeah, my whole thing is like anything that pulls me away from martial arts that like fills that slot, I'm always hesitant. Just because despite as much as Ben gasses me up, there are many, many volumes worth of books that I need to like learn. I mean, I'm constantly humbled every single day that you roll with an upper belt, and I'm like, oh my God, 6 years and I still suck. Like I didn't know I could get tapped that many times. It's like one of those things where it's just like kind of similar to crypto where it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper the more that you look.
And I'm always humbled by my ability to find new sources of extensive leg pain after too many miles run. So I'm gonna that's yeah, that's just a big like, and maybe that means I should do it, but you're a better man than I, Jared. So good luck on your race, sir. I'll be cheering you on from the sidelines.
Yeah, I'll hand you some water.
Well, we jumped right into the pod this week. Skip the intro. Let us know down in the comment section if you actually prefer the intro or if you'd rather we just get right into it. But one thing that I wanted to do was introduce SubCoder. He's the newest council member along with Ginzu as well. And Dylan hopped in there as well. But SubCoder, really stoked to have you join us today. We had the guest council cancel and you hopped in at the last minute. So greatly appreciated. Welcome to the council and welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here.
We
too.
have
Super
a
stoked to be here.
with Subcoder, we have a new tradition where any guests that come on for the first time have to just rip 100 push-ups straight on camera, and that's how we know that they're legit as a guest. So whenever
All
you're
right.
ready during the span of the pod, just let us know. We'll go ahead and
can do
get
that
that
right
going. So what got you into crypto? What's your crypto story?
My crypto story. So let's see, when I first got into crypto, well, that's fucking sad story. So I was a QA tester at Neversoft working on Guitar Hero. Actually, no, we were working on Call of Duty at that time. Before Neversoft got absorbed by Infinity Ward, Neversoft after Guitar Hero, we stopped making those. We started working on Call of Duty, which was cool because that was the first game I had ever worked on as a QA tester, the first Modern Warfare. So we were working on what eventually became Future Warfare by Sledgehammer Games. Anyways, I heard about Bitcoin. I was sitting there at my desk at Neversoft on a work computer trying to figure out how to buy it. I remember it was $128 at the time. I spent $117 on it. Or no, I spent like 150 or something like that. I had 1.17 Bitcoin. I remember that number because that's Master Chief's number from, used to play Halo back in the day. So, anyways, I had it on there. I forgot about it. And then we got new computers and the old computers got wiped. And I don't have that Bitcoin's gone. It's still existing there somewhere. I don't have it. So that was it. And then I never got into crypto again until a few years later. And then I don't know, I just kind of been buying crypto ever since about maybe about 2019, 2020 about 2018, 2019, I really started buying. And then that's how I got into crypto and everything kind of just avalanched from there. Then I started finding out about utility. I started buying other things. One of the earliest things I bought altcoin wise, it was also a pain in the ass to get back then was I got Cardano at like 8 cents. And I sold it like $2.70. That was probably my best play back in it. Yeah. There's if I had more money to invest at the time, that would have been something. But I mean, I invested like a few $100. I walked away with like 5K from that. Just because I wasn't really a big player in it back then. But that's when I got into it, and then I started finding out about Web3 and all the gaming stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm into games, so. And then I ended up here in Neo Tokyo, and yeah, this is like by far my favorite Web3 community, and super stoked to be here and all that stuff. It's kind of a trip. I'm actually like a part of Neo Tokyo in some way now. It's really cool. Is it this so like I've worked on games for like 16 years, and like I mean I love the games that I worked on. I loved Guitar Hero. I hated Guitar Hero before I started working on it. Call of Duty, I got sick of real quick. If you're playing that all day, every day, and then working on it all day, I never want to play that game again. So for me, it's kind of cool because Neo Tokyo was something that I sought out because I wanted it. It wasn't because like, hey, let me go to the most popular game. Let me go to 2K games. Let me go back to Activision. God forbid I have to go to EA. It was just like all this like corporate stuff that I just wasn't looking forward to getting back into. And I know I'm still gonna have to, look for jobs in that realm or whatever. But this made me happy because this is something that I just 100% wanted. There was no like, it wasn't anything else other than just a want to be a part of it. So it's just something I want to be a part of. So yeah, that's
So
my crypto. That's everything up to here, I think.
So obviously you spent some time like working with big game dev companies. Are they coming? What do they think about crypto? Like how do you kind of reconcile in your mind like the role that crypto plays in gaming, and maybe just give us your thesis having been on the inside of the incumbents of the gaming space.
So yeah, I have some pretty strong opinions about that. Maybe even at times to my own detriment. I can tell you that when blockchain technology was, so we would go to town. I worked at 2K Games. That was the last place I worked at. I worked for Mass Media Games, which is a 2K game studio. And we weren't, I suppose we were more of a service studio. So it was just a studio of about 50 engineers. And all we did was software optimizations to make games run better for all 2K game studios. So I got a chance to work on all the Borderlands games, BioShocks, Mafia, Civ 6, XCOM, all that stuff, because we were just next project, next project, next
We lost them.
Big
project.
gaming,
So,
dude. Big gaming
kind of
cutting.
cool having job stability in that industry too, because people tend to get laid off after. Anyways, we would have town hall. What was that?
You
Oh,
got cut
sorry.
off for a second. We were saying the deep gaming state was hearing you talk about them, and they cut you off for a sec. But anyways, we heard all the games that you were working on, and you were like next project, next project, next project, and then you got cut off.
So we would have a town hall every quarter, and you could ask his name was Strauss. He's like the main CEO for Take-Two Interactive, which was like the conglomerate that owned 2K Games. And I don't know how much I could really say about that, but when I first brought up blockchain, he kind of turned his nose up at it and kind of shrugged it off and was like, whatever. And I was thinking, wow, that's not a wise move for somebody in your position. Within 6 months, NBA 2K added NFTs to their game. I brought it up at a town hall the following year.
We
I
lost.
believe it was in 2021. They straight up ignored my question. They would not even answer. I think at least company like 2K are doing, because they're more considered with, they just want to make money. They say they want innovation, but they don't. They're like, we want innovation, but do the same thing you did last year, please. So it's like there's always that constant struggle between, hey, no, we got to take some risk and maybe lose a little bit if we want to like really take it to the next level. And so I think what they'll do is they'll just keep making games the way they are. They're going to rely a lot more heavily on AI to cut back hugely on their overhead. And they're going to just have integrations. They're going to integrate things with blockchain for sure. But I don't think they're ever like really going to come out and be like, yo, we're Web3, we're doing Web3 gaming now. They might if everybody wants to be the second person that does it. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants to be the first one to dive in head first and go, I don't know if there's any water in this pool, but I'm going to find out. And then if there is, then everybody else is going to dive in after it. That was just kind of the feeling that I got. And then my strongly held opinion about it is I feel there's a lot more opportunity in Web3 gaming that's not being explored that could involve blockchain. And one of the things I feel real strongly about is kind of like if we kind of have like a governance or like a voting system where everybody in the community, every player can have a voice and kind of co-develop a game with developers, that'd be really cool. I think blockchain solves a big problem there because you have game titles out there like Destiny 2 is something I pretty much exclusively play, and they're a great example of this, is that they listen to their community. It's just the problem is it's that it's 20% of the 80-20 rule. It's 20% of the people making all the noise. And so they hear a bunch of people complaining, but it's only 1 out of 5 people that really don't like something, or you know what I mean? And they're really vocal about it. So then they jump in and go, okay, we're going to change it. And then everybody else jumps in and goes, no, what are you doing? Like, why? So I think if you had some sort of like, you integrate blockchain in a way where developers can go, okay, we're going to do one of these 3 things with the game here. What do you guys like? And maybe like a co-development process where it's a little more trackable and traceable and in a way, not, you can't just manipulate it and just like have a bunch of people a few people making a bunch of noise, you know what I mean? Because if the game's great and you're playing it, you're not going to be on the forums talking about it, you're going to be playing the game. So I think those people tend to not have, it's weird, it's like the majority gets underrepresented if you pay too much attention to the forums and stuff like that. So I don't know, as far as like those big companies, they're not doing as well as they would like to be doing. They've had at least 2 rounds of massive layoffs. I was part of the second one last year, and they got rid of like basically all the OGs. They got rid of the old school people. They get rid of a lot of the good talent. The studio that I used to work for was like a home to me. It was the best job I ever had. I loved every single person that worked there, which is really rare. Like there was no like I literally loved everybody there. Like I've been to weddings, I've been to funerals, I've been to baby showers, I helped people move. I had to, like these are people I'm still in contact with most of them, you know what I mean? And so that sucked, but I don't know. I get the feeling that they're nervous. I don't think they're not fans of Web3 because it's different. And until they see a big company make $1 billion doing something exclusively Web3, they're just going to turn their nose up on it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
think
would
there'll
rather be a
be.
part. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, just the last thing. That's why I don't know. Me personally, like, I still need to get a job. I haven't worked in a year. I'm not worried about it. I'm actually in a pretty decent place. I got a very nice golden parachute. It had nothing to do with my performance. It had nothing to do with that. So, yeah, I don't know. I would much rather work for a small startup company that doesn't know where the money's going to come from as opposed to working for a big company at this point, because it's scarier, but fuck it, man, let's do it. That's just kind of my whole attitude about it.
Yeah, I definitely think there will be, like, when it comes to the big companies adopting Web3, it would be very hard for them to all say, all right, we're making a full pivot and we're jumping in feet first. Because you're right, that pool might be a foot deep or it might be a mile deep. And you just don't know as a big company. And you may think you know, but then life smacks you in the face, right? Where I'm definitely seeing a lot of adoption is in either they'll spin up a new division to go explore, or they'll invest in a new um, studio or something that's doing it, or they might use some tools or tooling. But where I think the big, big, big moves are going to come is when we see native Web3 companies who, from the ground up, are just they capture the cultural zeitgeist and they can actually fully express the technology natively because they've been built from the ground up in it, like the Bane, you merely adopted the darkness, I was born into it, sort of thing. And I think they're going to start acquiring those companies. So when we get to the point where there's just abundant M&A going on, and these gaming companies are having to buy to play defense because they're getting their lunch eaten in a few different ways that they didn't think was going to happen, but now they realize it's happening, and then they're like, oh shit, we can't recreate this, we have to buy this or else they're going to eat our lunch. That's probably when it like hyper accelerates, and then it just becomes gaming. And then either these features are enabled, like, to the user, it's like either the features are enabled and they get the benefits of it, but they don't, like, I think they probably just have that happening, and they don't just make this big we're Web3 because it's got kind of still bad PR with gamers. I think that's kind of dissolving a little bit over time, but it'll be more like, oh, now you have more options with your digital collectibles, right? And like they'll update their terms of service. Like right now, for example, if you go and read some of the latest blog posts about updated terms of service from somebody like a Riot Games, what they've done is they've made it abundantly clear that when you buy a skin, for example, you do not own that. You are renting a license from them. So I think that's where we'll see it. It'll be kind of subtle, but it'll look externally facing very subtle, but internally it'll be a huge shift. But I think that happens when the Web3 companies kill it, and then M&A happens because the Web2 companies have to catch up, and they can't do that. They have to buy the native builders in the form of a question to see what
Yeah,
you
that
guys think
definitely
about.
sounds like. No, I think that's spot on. I mean, the point of, the big companies not wanting to come in until it's, I mean, if you're Coca-Cola, you probably shouldn't fuck with the Coke recipe. But if you wanted to get into like the Powerade space, that's where spin off a little company, do some experimenting, and then M&A if it ends up being big. I think that's totally in line with which the direction it'll end up going. Also, I loved your point, SubCoder, around like separating the noise from the feedback, or the signal from the noise around, you can have this super loud minority really like hijack the opinion of the space. So it always makes me think of stand up, because I have some experience for a little while. I was trying to get into that scene, and I think about, like, in that case, the loud minority is the heckler who is taking away from everyone else's experience. They're shouting out their sort of like loud opinion. They have an overinflated thought of themselves as they're interrupting the show, but the laughs are the signal. So how do you separate sort of the noise from the signal in gaming when you're getting all this feedback? So I don't know if that's, either money or some sort of Web3 interface where you're weighing people's opinion with additional metrics, like maybe you're pulling their Steam achievements or their game time, or using the blockchain to pull sort of an aggregatized like sort of achievements across it, so that you can be like, oh, okay, hey, this is an opinion from someone who's played 600 hours of Halo, rather than this dude who couldn't figure out matchmaking because he's having an internet issue and he's taking it out on the community.
Dude, so that what you're tapping into is something that Ray Dalio actually coined a term to help describe, which is a believability weighted index. So anybody can have an opinion on something, but those who have the most experience successfully doing the thing should have a higher believability weighted index than Joe Schmo sitting on the couch doesn't know shit about fuck, right? So like the metric you're talking about of maybe transaction volume, who's either bought or sold the most, driven the most revenue for the game, put in the most hours, or contributed the most in whatever way. In my opinion, that should be the group, that cohort of like power users and or power spenders. Those are the ones to listen to for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I like that philosophy a lot, for sure.
I think that makes perfect sense. We've seen that, growing up on Discord when, you have the bots that are tracking the people that are actually really involved in the community, and the ones that actually care and are showing up and doing things. Those are the ones that you listen to. That's really your core audience. Obviously the sort of broader audience is there, and that's going to come with time. But I think if you cater to that, I think you're on the right track. And then once that becomes sort of mainstream, and like you're saying, where, it's not a Web3 game, it's just a game. And now instead of all these other things, well, now you can actually do something with, sure, it's blockchain, but it doesn't matter. The point is you own a skin now. You can do what you want with it. You could sell it. You could move it to another game, and once I think everyone realizes the benefits for them, that is when it's going to click, and it's like, oh, well, who cares if it's Web3? This is fun and cool. And then at that point, it's a whole different paradigm. And like you're saying, that's when, the large gaming companies who have the billions of dollars are going to come in and swoop and pick up whoever says, all right, I'm ready for a cash out here, come take me. And that's going to make sense. And then from there, that's how they're building their studio. And then, it's just organic growth at that point. And I think that is what's going to happen. The question is, what's that tipping point? What's the first game that makes that sort of a reality? And that's what I think everyone's waiting for, certainly in our space. And that's always my question. Which one is it? It's coming up. It's got to be one of these, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think you touched on a really good point there. I think the first step is not to try to sell people Web3 as like the main feature. Gamers will do some if there's a really good game that they're passionate about, they'll go through some extra steps to get something they really want. Let's say it's a brand new subclass or some really overpowered weapon or something. And you just say, oh yeah, but before you do this, you have to go get a wallet over here and do this thing real quick. It will be nothing. Yeah, they're gonna look right past that. They're gonna be like, what the fuck? I just gotta put my email and do something. Bam, then they're gonna be in it. What comes after that, I think, is a little more interesting discussion. But for at least the last 2 years, I've always kind of thought that and said that a few times in discussions like this. It's like I don't. If you try to make that the main selling point, everybody's gonna turn away. It just sounds like extra work. If you say, hey, we got a brand new subclass in this minigun that's just going to destroy everything in like, a minute or, half a second, but you got to do these things, you got to complete this quest. And then when you're done over here, just go over here real quick, open up a wallet because we want to make sure you get the right thing and it goes to the right person. And then suddenly you're in Web3. Then you could start adding more features and suddenly maybe drop a little more in their wallet or something. Again, that's another great discussion to have. But yeah, I agree with you, Jared. That's a great first step, is to not just make it like part of like a little side quest that you have to do to get something in the game that they they want.
And I don't even think it should be. I almost think that's too much friction too. Like whenever they sign up for their account or whatever, however many steps they have to go from interest in playing to clicking buttons and playing and having fun, whatever those number of steps, that's your friction. And that's where you're going to lose everybody. So like if they could sign in with Google or sign in with Apple or whatever, let this age well, add your, multinational conglomerate at the time, like that reduces the friction to the max. And I think where these big companies are going to figure out they should play in this realm is that their wallet products are actually going to become the main sign-in mechanism, or it's going to just be synced up with their login. So like when you log in with Apple, let's say you log into XYZ game, SubCoder's Adventure, right? You log in with Apple, well, it automatically brings your Apple Wallet into the experience, and then anything you earn within SubCoder's Adventure, that will pop up in your Apple Wallet. I don't understand quite it doesn't make sense to me why they wouldn't at least be paying attention to this, because they're aware of blockchain, obviously. Like maybe it's for regulatory purposes, maybe they don't want to take the risk, maybe it's just not worth it to them, maybe they haven't developed the tech, whatever. But I think over time they will get to a point where they understand that wallets are going to kind of become the main mechanism of sign in. And so they're going to probably start embedding that into their sign-in process so that you could just stick stuff in the Apple Wallet, for example. But I want to jump back to, so that's one thought. I want to jump back to something you mentioned previously, or something we've been talking about previously too, which is getting to the point where Web 2 acquires Web 3. I think another really important thing to note too is that Web 2 gaming is facing an issue that, unless you're in the industry, you're not really aware of, which is their advertising costs are going up tremendously. Like if you talk to studios or game builders or people that have previously built in Web 2 that have come over to Web 3, the number one question I ask them every single time, right after, hey, do you want to fight my friend Nick in judo? He's a champion. After that question, I asked them, do you why did you come to Web 3? What was the purpose of that? Why didn't you stay in Web 2? Because you've crushed it. You've acquired huge player bases. And they say, well, our advertising costs got too high, specifically when Apple made the changes to their tracking mechanism with the Facebook Pixel, because a lot of them were buying ads on Facebook, driving installs to their Apple mobile apps, and they would make a killing. Well, now it's too expensive. And so when they look at Web3, what a lot of them see is, oh, you're telling me I can use tokens as incentives to get people to come and download my game? Huh, that's interesting. And what they're realizing is they can get significantly cheaper installs, and they can then have people who are fiercely advocating for their game and bringing in other people to come play the game. So it helps them on the user acquisition side. And so that's probably one of the big drivers where it's just, it's just pure dollars and cents sort of thing. So actually, let me pause on that because I would love to get you guys' thoughts on that too. And I have a follow-up point as well of like why all this stuff is important and why blockchain is critical. But I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on these two comments.
Well, the first thing you brought up about having like a wallet attached to like your Apple account or your Google account, I think I think it's Cardano is going to have something like that real soon, where you're just going to have a Cardano wallet attached to your Google account or something like that. My thought, and I haven't looked into this, is that might actually be a good thing to look into because haven't looked into this at all, but I've wondered about it. Why don't they do that? And my first thought was like maybe there's just like a legal reason, like if I have your email address and you sign up for my game, I can't just open up a bank account in your name. I know it's not exactly the same thing, but I wonder maybe there, even if it's not against the law because there's no clear regulation there, maybe they don't want to risk it. And then the second thing you brought up about the marketing costs are insane in AAA game development. And that's the only experience I have, but I can tell you the amount, if you spend 150, $200 million on a game, you're going to spend double because you have to basically match that same amount with the marketing. I never worked in marketing, so I'm not too close to those numbers, but I have gotten some high level perspective on it, and it blows my mind how much money they spend on marketing. And yeah, if you could create an in-game incentive for people to just share their game, live stream their game, that is huge. That is such a huge cut to the overhead. And it's just, dude, it's better for the game. It's better for the community. It's such a win-win, like doing it like that, like creating an in-game incentive or some type of thing like that. And just no, man, use your player base as the marketing. Get the suits out of there, man. Get all those, like, dude, I hated working with those marketing people. There's, 75, 100 of us working on a game, slaving over it for like 3 years. And then this marketing team comes in and we have to add 150 more people to our game credits. That was kind of a turnoff too. And then when you look at the kind of budget they're getting, and it's just like, why? Because it's not just the advertising. You got to pay all those marketing people. And then you got to pay all those legal teams on top of it. Man, that stuff gets expensive. That is no joke. So yeah, that's a really good point. And yeah, yeah.
Well, what I am kind of hearing too is like there there could be a really interesting way to basically incentivize your existing user base to help you find new users and reward them with tokens. It's kind of like play to airdrop, but more like share to airdrop, sort of. If to try to bring it to a parallel to like easily wrap your mind around it. But like, I guess the issue there is, well, then why are the tokens valuable? And maybe you say, hey, we use a percentage of the revenues of the game itself to to buy tokens, and we then use those tokens to attract new users, so there's always this constant flow of supply and demand, and so maybe they have some flows there. Obviously I haven't figured this out, or else I would have a $10 trillion token myself, so caveat there, obviously. But like I do think that that could be a really powerful thing. In At the end of the day, the products which get the users that spend money with them, those are the products that are going to win. Like, people like to hate on things like projects like Pump Fun or Jupiter or whatever, but they're making money, so they're doing something right. Like, they're scratching an itch somewhere, and not that many projects are in crypto, to tell you the truth. So it's kind of hard to build something when you have zero cash flow. So yeah, so I think you're right, and that I really appreciate your perspective there, because it seems like there could be a very interesting incentive model to have existing users bring in other users, because referrals are the way things grow and hit hyperbolic scale like really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think that a really good conversation to have is like if let's say you do have the the capital or the revenue or whatever to invest a lot of money in marketing, could you get the same, let's just call it return on investment or whatever, by actually just paying people with like a cryptocurrency that's worth something, whether it be AVAX or Polygon or whatever? It'll be like, yeah, man, no, you're actually going to earn legit crypto. It's not just in-game currency. Maybe just, hey, man, if we got a budget of, let's just say $10 million that we want to spend on advertising. All right, well, just an example. Let's try a little experiment. Let's put 5 million in the ads, UFC fights or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a marketing guy. And then we take that other 5 million and just start rewarding streamers and players and people that are actually playing the game, and be like, no, this is like legit play to earn, dude. You're not going to spend 30 hours on this game and get $1.75 if you get in the top 10. Nah, like, yeah, dude. Let's divide up that 5 million of worth of Ethereum or something else probably, but something like just like a known cryptocurrency that actually has like legit value. So if they want to get it and they want to hang on to it, and like, yeah, just actually like take some of that marketing money essentially. I wonder what the return would be on that. Like how well would that perform compared to the marketing? Because again, you also have that added benefit of creating a much stronger community, and that's much higher replayability. It's just it definitely improves other metrics that you really want when you develop a game. So yeah, I think that's a great conversation to have.
Now a word from our sponsors.
What's up, crypto gamers? Shout out to our sponsor, Myria. Myria is revolutionizing Ethereum-based gaming with its powerful L2 scaling solution. Think zero gas fees, instant transactions, free NFT minting, and more. Myria offers a suite of tools that are tailor-built for game development, including game-specific SDKs, a spec'd-out marketplace, Web3 spiked leaderboards, new AI super tools, and more. All this fueled by a fleet of player-run nodes that are a breeze to operate and pump out daily rewards for supporting the ecosystem. Plus, check out Meta Rush, the Battle Royale obstacle runner by Myria Studios, dropping very, very soon.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, and plus to your point around, all the drag that comes with marketing, the drag being the marketers themselves, the legal that has to come out, the relationship stuff to make sure that your ads are getting put on the right sporting events, yada, yada, yada. So like what out of that fictionary like $200 million marketing budget that you had thrown out for this AAA game that cost 200 million, like how much of that ends up getting eaten by sort of the administrative, the legal cost, where you could take 100% of that, or it certainly wouldn't be 100% because you need the blockchain people, you need everything, but let's say maybe 80% as opposed to 50%, and you can put that money into the actual player and provide value. I think that's super interesting. I think the other thing that's going to come to influence this space is having it essentially becomes subsidized by the advertisers. Because if you look at sports, if you look at NASCAR, if you look at the Yankee Stadium, all of these giant events are subsidized by the advertisers. The Super Bowl being a great example where they're actually coming in to pay, and that budget's being used to put on a better event. Do we enter that spot with gaming? I think it was like My Player Alice, or I feel like I'm messing up that title, but I'd sat through at NFT NYC a really interesting marketing presentation where they were doing collaborated missions with different companies. So instead of having, a really obtrusive ad pop up in the middle of a video game, you might just have an opportunity in whatever MMO RPG to be like, hey, I actually vibe with this company and I ran into the Mountain Dew Wizard, and the Mountain Dew Wizard is going to send me on a quest to go and get these materials, and he'll forge me a Mountain Dew sword. And as long as the brands are on point and it doesn't get shoved into the player's face, but maybe the agreement is, hey, they'll at least be notified on their quest book that mission is out there. And then, maybe Mountain Dew pays a couple $1 million, $10 million, all the way up. If it's a big game, it doesn't get forced on the player, but those players that vibe with Mountain Dew are going to be like, hey, well, I'll go through this mission and now I've got this sick Mountain Dew sword and I'll use it in content, and it could have this sort of like circulating effect. So I'd be curious if that's coming.
So here's where I think we unite all the things we're talking about into the holy grail of user acquisition. You have somebody like Mountain Dew bake in the product in a really organic way, kind of like you're saying. I don't think it should be the Mountain Dew sword. I think it should be a consumable called Mountain Dew that they have to go and forage little dew drops from this specific plant that, and whatever, and it gives you special powers and you drink it and you have like a funny like or whatever like at the end when you drink it, but that quest is sponsored by Mountain Dew. But and here's the kicker, as a function of consuming the quest, if you think of that quest as content and the user is consuming it by playing the quest, if they can get rewarded with not only the item, but also maybe some tokens, like maybe they get Dew tokens or whatever the native token is, whatever. But in order for them to claim that token or unlock that as part of consuming the content, they are inviting their friends to come do it with them. That I think is where you will have explosive viral growth. And the where that capital comes from to pay the user would come from Mountain Dew because they're investing in advertising, but the advertising is the user consuming the quest and getting shilled. Got to get Mountain Dew, got to get Mountain Dew, got to get Mountain Dew. And then you have the branding on point within the thing to where it's reflective and it makes them want to go drink more Mountain Dew. Things like that, I think, are where that kind of loops it all and ties it all together. Like, for example, the probably one of the best examples of this is on the chess game, where if you go to fire up a game of chess, the first thing that they show you is invite a friend to play with you. And so you are incentivized to maximize your own fun as a player to invite your friends. And so you send it to them, they download it, they immediately get popped into the lobby with you and you start playing. Think about in League of Legends, I don't know if you guys have played, or like any game where it's like party based and you can shoot invites over to your friends. The easier it is for them to sync your contact, like grab your contact list, and then you can shoot invites out to your friends on your contact, on your like your phone contact list, either a text or an email or whatever, and they can click a button and auto join you in that party. And maybe it adds them in as a guest so you can kind of bypass that initial friction and they just play. And then on the back end, in order to claim stuff or whatever, then they sign up. That's how you get people inviting people, and that's how you get the referral growth. But baking that into consumption of the product leads to viral referrals, and using the subsidies from the advertising in a native organic way, like the Mountain Dew quest, that to me is the holy grail. And whoever nails that, watch out, because that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, that I love that, and it's kind of get back into the marketing. For all you geeks out there that like formulas, I'm sure y'all have all heard the LTV to CAC ratio. I think it now is maybe a good time to talk about it. But the lifetime value of your customer versus how much it costs to bring that customer in. I mean, I think a lot of people say it should be like 3, but really, if it's more than 1, essentially you're getting more value in for less than the cost. So at that point, it's all a matter of however much cash flow you have, you dump into it at that point, and you're going to have exponential growth. And I love the Mountain Dew. That's a beautiful analogy. And then, that's going to reduce how much the games have to spend, because now I would look at that as maybe offsetting your marketing expense rather than revenue coming in. And I think if you play it that way, you can really start just turning that machine on and going out to all the different outlets and avenues. If that ratio is good enough, then boom, you're there. And I love the idea of the friction, and every time my kids play like a new game, it's like, oh man, we got to go in and the emails, and it's like it's like it reduces the fun immediately, and it's like they should do like they do now with movies where they used to have the credits in the front and it was like, and then the movie starts. Now it's like the movie starts and the credits are later. They should just have immediate gameplay. And then once you finish that first sort of cutscene or whatever that is, then you can go in and do all the things where you put your email. And that, I think that would make a huge difference. Immediate start. Wow, I would love that. And that's something that I've thought for a long time since, the connection to the internet and, all the downloading and, oh, there's an update. And it's like, cool, I want to play this game. I just bought it. 3 hours later, I can finally play it. And it's like, whatever, and
Dude,
that I
you could
think that
use
is a big problem.
biometrics. You
Yeah,
could use
whatever.
biometrics because you could create, because that's essentially saving a pass key, which is which can be your login. They should let you do biometric, login, and then fill in on the back end all that other shit. So at least you create some digital entity that they can store as you and attribute all of the stats to. But you're completely correct. I just think that's how they could do it, would be with a passkey and biometrics.
Yeah, and there's probably a reason that a lot of the big like industries like Apple are heading in that direction. Obviously, like Face ID has drastically simplified the amount of time that it takes to open the phone. Of course, there's draconian dystopian potential like spin-offs that can happen anytime biometrics get involved. But one thing I did want to make sure that I shared with the audience is I actually have a little bit of alpha I brought in the bag for an opportunity if people do want to compete to earn some prizes. And that is, I'm pleased to announce on May 3rd at 8 p.m. UTC, Superverse, Neo Tokyo, and My Pet Hooligan will be teaming up to host an event where you'll have a chance to compete for 5K USD worth of prizes. So mark your calendars, check out either Neo Tokyo's X account, My Pet Hooligan, or Super's X account to get all the details. This will be coming out on Tuesday, so all those details should be readily available. Hop in the NT Discord. That's where it's going to be hosted in the NT Play section. So wanted to make sure that I shared that with all the viewers, especially since we were talking about ways you could potentially earn playing games. Well, if you're a sweaty My Pet Hooligan player and you got some quick thumbs, you can compete and win a slice of that prize pool.
You forgot to mention the most exciting part, which is the grand champion winner then gets a one-on-one fight with you, Sir Nicholas, champion of the world.
Yeah. They're gonna attack me with like carrots. We'll have a plunger gun. We'll have some My Pet Hooligan props to even it out. No, it should be super fun. And these sorts of events, like I'm very stoked about, the state that like My Pet Hooligan is in. They've been building a bunch, so I think that should be a super fun event.
Sick. And yeah, shout out to MPH. Those guys are absolute chads. They are doing some really interesting stuff with AI too. Um, Actually, this might be a really good time to go into a question to the panel here, which is we talked about advertisers subsidizing user acquisition and going into games and paying them for stuff. What I don't think we've talked about yet is the value of the data that is created by the games and the users within the games, chat logs, how they operate, transaction information, tying wallets to in-game activity. There's a lot of interesting data that's going to be created there. I believe deeply that the next stage of, because like most of the AI companies have run out of data to train on. I think this is my personal belief that one of the next stages of that, which is going to bring a huge amount of value to the players, is in-game data and player data within games, because one, AI is digitally native. And so when you have data being created in a digitally native environment, the AI will probably have a much easier time fully absorbing and training on that data. That's just, that's an opinion, but I think it's probably a true one. And you can bake it into the infrastructure and rails of the game itself. So it's just like sitting there collecting all the data. Or players can then choose to opt in to share that data, and maybe there's some sort of ongoing revenue. But if we think about it too, over time, as AI gets more capable, eventually AI in theory should replace all work done online by humans. And at some point then, which will probably happen after, robots will become sophisticated enough to handle all physical work done by human beings, in which case human beings don't have to work, in which case human beings are going to play. We already know this. This is a for sure thing. When you lose your work purpose, you immediately go to play and entertainment. And and in that world, our main driver of value back to the machines is to generate new data. And that should happen in a gaming world. At which point, and I want to tie this all together, at which point digital property rights, aka rights over your digital information and your digital assets, which includes your data, that becomes very important. And blockchain happens to be particularly good at defending those. Perhaps AI companies come in, or data brokers or whoever, and that's where a lot of the subsidies come from. But I know I just threw a lot of random things at it, you guys. It reminded me of this idea because MPH does a lot with AI. So I'd love to just put that out to you guys and get some reactions on it.
I have something interesting that my 10-year-old's been doing. So he has what's called, he has an Oculus or whatever the Oculus is called now. He has Nick, you're out, buddy. You want to say bye real quick?
Oh, appreciate it. Didn't want to interrupt the flow, but gents, thank you very much. I got to run so I can slightly improve at jiu-jitsu and one day fill the footsteps that Ben lays out for me when he hypes me up. But SubCoder, absolutely great to have you on. Really appreciate you jumping on last minute and looking forward to hearing all your AI takes when I listen to the pod live next week. Later, gents.
Get your money.
See you, brother. Good luck.
All right. So my son he's 10 and he has a new, I guess it's Oculus, whatever it's called now. But he's got the new Be Your Best game. Okay. So Be Your Best is it's a game, but it's also a soccer trainer and it has an AI in there. So this is actually used in, I think Copenhagen is one, and perhaps Germany uses this exact software. What it does is it has an AI and it builds games based on your ability to look at the soccer field, okay, and see where the ball's coming and glancing back and forth. It's essentially a training tool, but it uses AI and it uses a really cool leaderboard and it builds around your abilities to make you a better player. So it's fun. I mean, he loves playing it. It's a fun game. And then additionally, it helps in the actual soccer games. The other day he was playing and for the first time ever, he looked up, the ball was coming at him. He looked behind him. Then he got the ball and did something different than he normally would. And I was like, VR. I was like, that is working. And I told all the dads, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I've watched my kid for years. He's never taken a ball on the way and looked behind him. I'm like, that is a big deal. So AI, like you're talking about, can, sort of become, this is entertainment. And also, he obviously wants to be a professional soccer player. So it's also kind of his work. He's 10, we'll see. But I think it has the ability to sort of take all those things wrapped up all in once and make it 10 times better. So it's creating your training tool. It's tracking you. It's also building things just specifically for you so that, hey, you never look left in this situation. So let's do that over and over again. So, that's just one small, tiny snippet of it bleeding into games. And man, the possibilities for that are unbelievable. And I think like you're talking about is just, we're so just at the very beginning. This hasn't even started yet. It's a nascent idea. And, I've seen it change my son in a matter of 3 weeks, just starting it. And I know, lots of programs use this. So this is just one. There's going to be thousands across every sort of aspect. And to see that potential and the growth, I think is just unhinged how amazing it's going to be.
So, Coder, I know you have some thoughts here. Let's hear
it. Yeah, I haven't tried. Well, you brought up like 4 really good points I wanted to go over. But let's just focus on this. So, like with the AI and getting game like player data. So the term we used was telemetry. So believe again, there's a lot of, I can't go into too much detail, but I will go out on a limb and say that the amount of data that developers collect from their users is pretty impressive. It's, dude, they really go deep. They want to see how long did you stay at this screen before you selected what you selected. And like they do all these things, and and it's actually kind of cool. Like it's like if you're into like data, I know a lot of people fall asleep after 5 minutes talking about telemetry, but I'm fascinated by it. I just love talking about it. And no, we would have, I mean, for any like real major AAA game that I worked on, there would be a telemetry team, just engineers. All they handled was telemetry, and it would be anywhere between 5 and 10 people full time working on telemetry data. And yet, getting AI to process all that data and give you actionable insights, or even to just execute on those actionable insights, is just like such an exponential evolution. Like I don't know, there's I mean that's like a wild frontier right there. I'm both excited and terrified about AI. We're going on the ride whether we want to or not, so you might as well just jump on it. That's been my whole take on it. But yeah, telemetry is huge. And not just, I mean, there's the whole business perspective. Obviously, there's going to be like telemetry data you want to figure out how to market things better inside the game. You're going to have those marketing teams that just want to sit there and, grind meetings to a halt and make them last for 4 hours because they want to talk about like real semantic stuff. I get it. There's a place for that. But the conversations I would really love to be a part of are the ones that you were talking about, Jarred, is just like, okay, no, how do we change the game for this guy right here? Like right now, you go and do a game. What do you got? You got easy, normal difficulty, hard, and then like, I don't know, master ninja if you're a masochist or whatever. And yeah, man, it's like if you could just have a game that could actually just kind of tweak the levers of certain functions and things that you do inside a
Calibrate
game
with you.
based on how you perform, you could hit that flow state. So if you're familiar with the flow state, you want a challenge that makes you work, makes you sweat, but you don't want that challenge to be too hard so that you're not accomplishing anything. You want to, and it's kind of tricky to find that real, they call it a flow state. If you ever see a flow chart, it's the most basic thing in the world. You have 3 lines. Yeah, man, to have a game that could just do that would be cool, because that's also like you talk about replayability, bringing people back, keeping people there, keeping people engaged, making people feel good about it, and like actually improving and stuff. Yeah, I love that conversation. There's so
But
much to
dude,
talk about there.
that is the most valuable data in the world for, let's jump back to the advertisers, because that's the most valuable data in the world to them. And here's why. Let's say you're training for soccer. And by the way, it's not just for soccer. They already use this at scale. For example, flight simulators, training pilots,
Surgeons.
for surgeons, for insert your everything after that. But soldiers. But anyways, let's go back to soccer example. The most valuable thing to the advertisers would be to say to the soccer player, okay, you have just reached a place where you can do these things with your game. And we know that you currently have this level of cleat. Well, now it's actually the right time for you as your AI coach. I'm telling you, you need to upgrade your cleats to this level and this brand and this size and this particular function. And oh, do you want to style it a certain way? And so they can make personalized recommendations as a trusted coach to tell people what to buy and when. And in the ideal, it is actually a good thing to help satisfy the need of the individual. So, your superstar soccer player son, who's a total Chad, by the way, love him to death. He would know, okay, now is the time to do, to get these cleats. Now is the time to get this new type of ball. Or, hey, I need to work on XYZ fundamentals. And so I need a training ball to do this, that, or the other thing. That data is incredibly valuable because it can make recommendations there. And if a soccer brand, which wants to sell that stuff, is able to pay to get access to, instead of interrupting somebody scrolling on their social feed, to have an AI coach recommend and push someone to the exact right product that they need at the right time. Not only that, but then you have the ability to learn and teach that AI so that the next person that it tries to help, it's even better. And then it can guide people along the way and help them maximally improve their game, or the most efficient path to improvement in products and services are built in. Like you could say, okay, now you need to start getting massages, to cool your muscles down. Now you need to start doing ice baths. Now you need to start doing this. Now you need to start doing that. And like eventually go from, 0 to now you're a professional player. And these are all the buy points and the products and services that you've needed along the way. That's where the value is. And so AI companies that are either extracting the data or building these assistants, they are extremely valuable to advertisers for that reason. And the advertisers are paying the AI companies, but they should be paying the publishers. So I think there's a huge place for a middleware AI company to help basically build a rev share model where not only do the publishers get rev share, but the players get rev share because they're the ones creating the data. The publishers are creating the environment where that data is being created. The AI company is providing the service to help train and improve the players. And then, the brands are getting access to customers and basically given on a silver platter. So that I think is a beautiful thing if it's done the right way and the ideal. Obviously, if you're in somebody's ear and you're their coach and they trust you completely, you could lead them down a dark path. So we need to be careful about that. Also, if that turns into where there are like AI NPCs, for example, and you're in like a Diablo game and you're fighting the evil Hellion, that's trying to kill you in the game, and it's learning because you're kicking its ass, and then it's learning, and then it's kicking your ass, and then you get better and you kick its ass. Okay. Eventually, you might get so powerful to where the only way that it could defeat you is if it kills you IRL. So that gets a little fucking scary to me because that could very easily happen. But hopefully we stay in the ideals. But anyways, I just again throw a lot out at you guys, but I'm so excited about this topic.
That's amazing. And then you've got another AI that once it tells you need these cleats, that automatically connects it, puts it in your wallet, and then you can use the coins that you've already got to buy it, whatever. Like that is like immediate and quick, and say, or you can say, hey, not only that, but here's a store. I'll set you an appointment and you just go try it on. And there's 3 types, see which one you like, make sure it fits. And then you have these sort of retail outlets connected to it. Yeah, you don't have to. It'll scan your foot at that point and it just, here's the one you need. Boom, it's in. I mean, there's so many possibilities for that. And man, I think like we're once we get there, we're just like, we're so close. Technology's like almost good, right? It's like, oh, it's almost good. And then that is amazing though. And I love that idea of just being able to have the AI train you for that, because I mean, I'll tell you, if you're a 10-year-old boy and you want to be a professional soccer player, one coach is not enough. You need to do work on your own because everyone is so much better than they were 20 years ago. You need to have a personal coach. You need to have the AI. You need to have all the different tools. Otherwise,
but like
you won't get picked.
But like health coach, fitness coach, meditation coach to keep your mental strong, blah, blah, blah coach, blah, blah, blah coach.
Yes.
All of it.
Just like if you're a professional, this is what you have. And to get there, well, why not have all the same tools? Why not, as a 10-year-old, why wouldn't you have all those things? What's holding you back? Nothing, because AI is there to say, okay, well, here's when your speed training should start. Here's what you should do 3 days a week and have all that done. So if you start now, I mean, if you have the mental capability to sit there and do the same things over and over again for 20 or 30 years, that is the key, I think.
And this is why I think players like Apple and Facebook are investing so heavily in the AR devices, because not only should you be able to sit there at your computer and do this stuff, but eventually you should be able to put on your glasses or put a chip in your brain or whatever, and it will basically project, like astral projection, show you what you need to do in order to take the next step. Like it can say, okay, don't kick the ball here, kick the ball here. Or like, all right, we're going to do this drill where you have to dribble in between these pretend cones and you can go and weave and do it, weave and bob and do whatever you need to do. But like real time AI coaching would happen through that, and the hardware is where a ton of the control comes from. Maybe, things get monetized in different ways, and you have to kind of learn through, like, okay, there's a whole stack from all the way from the hardware at the base level to the software at the top level, and there's all these different things. I, I'm not sure where value accrues and all of that stuff, at least at the moment, but the hardware gives you a lot of control because, like, Facebook was building the advertising software and Apple had the hardware, and Apple said, fuck you. And Facebook was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So the hardware is going to be a big part of that. But imagine if you could have it in real time to where you're getting this training and nobody else is seeing it, by the way, but like you're getting this training through through your glasses. You could wear that and go out into a field. And if you just sit there and work on it for 8 hours a day, you become the next insert most gangster soccer player ever of all time.
Yeah, and
SubCoder,
just to
what
add to
what are
that,
your
like,
thoughts?
I had never really thought of that until you brought it up. But yeah, what you mentioned, like with AI and using telemetry data to have the AI, sort of, for lack of a better word, market those products to players. It's like, God, that solves like a lot of problems because then it's just, yeah, you're not interrupting the game flow. If anything, you're supporting the game flow. You're not taking the player out of the game. That's huge. And then also, it's just like, it's not like, you get a pop-up, it's just like, hey, buy these shoes. It's just like, do I need those shoes? I don't know. Do I don't think I need them. Am I just gonna buy them? Probably not. But then, like, if it's just part of the journey, it's just another little thing in the journey, and it's just, yeah, I wonder, like, how the conversion rate like multiplies by doing it that way.
Huge,
So it's just like lower
huge.
cost. It's not invasive at all. And I'll bet you that conversion rate goes way up as opposed to just like, hey, buy a shoe. You like soccer, right? Buy these. Yeah, totally. I love that.
100%. And then what happens when the digital equivalent of that happens to where, let's say you're in a game, let's say at Call of Duty, and you're like, okay, well, you kind of suck at no scope headshotting, so let's go practice that in a virtual field. Well, then it could say, all right, well, actually, the gun that you need is this, 99 cents. And actually, you may need a different keyboard because we sync with your hardware. So we know you're using the blah, blah, blah keyboard, but you really need this keyboard. And then you really need this mouse. And then actually your monitors are subpar because the frame rate and the gigahertz and the blah, blah, blah are not optimal. So here's what I would recommend there. So it can recommend both hardware, but then also say software. And then it's like, oh, I noticed that you're very good at this, but not as good at that. So this is the gun you should use for right now, but then we should switch over to that gun at this point. So it could bring you on the journey for both hardware and software. And we know for sure that when a coach that you trust that's helping you get to where you want to go tells you you need to go do this, that, and the other thing, you do it. So definitely the conversion rates are going up, but it could dive deep to the point where it's like, if its goal is to turn you into the most like gangster Call of Duty player of all time, it could even say, all right, now we need to go and we need to get your eyesight tested, and we need to go and we need to improve your hand-eye coordination. So we have these like basic exercises and apps, 99 cents there. We're going to refer out to a doctor here. Oh, your blah, blah, blah isn't as optimal as the thing. And like, actually, you're suffering from eczema. And so we need to send you to the dermatologist because that is actually distracting you because you have to go do this, that, or the other. Like, it's going to tie in all these disparate things to where it's going to like shape you and mold you into the most gangster player of all time, both virtual and physical. Like, that, I think, is where we're going. That becomes lethal because then it's like, okay, well, now you have everybody getting this very custom, tailored, specific, and epic coach bring you along the way, but now everybody has it. So who wins in that world? I don't know.
And then you're getting IRL benefits too, like legit ones. You know what I mean? You're no longer wasting time playing video games.
Totally. Totally. And then like there's definitely something to be said too about, okay, well, you're actually creating a lot of data, and through transaction volume, interaction with the coach, you're training it just as much as it's training you. So you as the player should get a rev share from that. And so in the pursuit of becoming excellent at the thing that you want to become excellent at, you should be able to get paid from the data that you're like a rev share on the data you're creating that helps to feed all these other things, right? And so that I think becomes a very circular, very powerful mechanism. And might be a cool way to actually pay people to play and to get better and improve themselves in the things that they want. And let's keep with soccer example. I'm sure there are, kind of like you're saying, like VR soccer, virtual soccer, or whatever. All that still applies. And then but there could also be things like, all right, well, we need to do the same thing for salespeople, for accountants, for skiers, for whatever. And then you could tie real value to the training part too. Yeah, I'm obsessed with this stuff. I mean, I just think there's so much value here. Okay, one more layer, then I'm gonna zip it again, Okay, so then imagine you're then tying all that stuff back to things like your, let's say for example, your driving data. Well, what's stopping you from then taking your driving data, and because you're working on soccer or you're working on Call of Duty, which improves your hand-eye coordination, why would that not lower your insurance rates on your car insurance? Because you're improving your hand-eye coordination over here and you have proof and the AI is telling you that here, well, then it can track, your driving data. Like, are you faster to stop? Are you speeding or are you not going as fast? Are you following the laws and doing blah, blah, blah there? Well, maybe your car insurance gets to go lower because you're improving over here. You're bettering yourself as a human being and all these attributes. Then you're saving money. And if there are fewer car accidents, the insurance companies actually make more money because they have to pay out less in claims. So now you're tying I'm becoming a gangster at Call of Duty to lowering like to helping insurance companies make more money and lowering your premiums, but also helping them make more money, creating that creates a delta of surplus cash and efficiency. That does a lot for the world. I don't even think we've begun to realize all the stuff that enables and all the different benefits to humanity there. So anyways, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
stop
mean,
talking
look,
now.
the skiing thing is great. So like, it sort of gets rid of the annoying little bunny slopes because you've practiced at home, you've already trained, you know exactly what you're going on. You're going to have a better experience. It's like it reduces the friction on the slope because when you get there, you're immediately doing the blue and then the black. So it's already more fun. You already know, you already have everything. They already, hey, yeah, he's already passed this, and this. He's good. Come on in, go up that slope. Here's where you need to be. Put the goggles on when you go down. It's like, all right, yeah, let's work on this a couple more times. All right, now go to the next one, the black one. And it's like your vacations are better because it's like catered to you. Here's the slope you need. And then you may have like a bunny slope, whole resort for people who are just learning. And then like you just skip that resort and go to the other one if you're here and because you'll have a better time. I mean, all of that sort of just makes your experiences better and it makes more money for each individual spot because then they don't have to have the 18 different types of things because it's like, oh, the only people come here are this. Here's all the stuff you need. Boom. And then everything's catered to you and it's already set up. Maybe it's already in your hotel room when you get there. It's like your size, your jacket, whatever. Boom. Walk in, put it on, go skiing. I
And
mean, that's
maybe
amazing.
the games that you play are indicative of what sports you would like to play outside of the game. And you could tie the monetization there, make the games free, make lower costs everywhere else, no friction needed for marketing, put people where, they're optimally are supposed to be put and reduce friction all around. But then what happens if somebody gains control of that who does not have your best interest in mind? And instead of putting you in a place where you optimally should go, it puts you where they want you to go and they force you to buy their stuff. Ooh, that could be bad. So I don't know. I always want to play devil's advocate to myself most of all. So, but anyways, guys, this has been an awesome episode. I think we should probably call it here. I think we've given the audience a lot to chew on. I've definitely given myself a lot to chew on in the form of talking way too much during the episode and not giving you guys enough airtime. But I appreciate you all for humoring me. And yeah, I hope everybody watching and listening. I hope you guys have had a good experience and maybe we kind of stimulated those brain cells a little bit more and would love to hear some of your feedback on this one. So anyways, SubCoder, welcome to the council. Thank you for coming on the show. You're now a friend of the
For having
pod.
me.
Jared, Hogshead, always a pleasure. Goodest of sirs, the greatest lawyer of all time. And we will see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
See you later. Thanks, subcoders. Great meeting you, man.
Yeah, likewise, man. Appreciate it.